Sunset of Time by Albino Corn. Final Act, Lessons Eternal, Chapter 21, Stand Up. There's two Sunset Shimmers, Shining as, pausing his brisk walk on to run a hoof down his face. Yes, Twilight said with her clenched teeth. You just tackled and pressed the wrong one. Shining held his hose up. Hey, in defense of my guards, they look exactly the same. What else was I supposed to do, Twilight? Twilight sighed in equal measure. I'm sorry. Not mad you did your job. It's just... Twilight fished for the right words. It was Rainbow who reeled him in. There's a lot going on right now. Sunset being rested again really isn't helping things. 6 mares of dragons stood before Shining Armor, 2 of his guards in the central hall of the palace. It had taken him half an hour just to get beyond security to see Shining and explain what had happened. Twilight imitated her brother, ran a hoof down her face, groan rising from her throat. Sunset in prison again, and probably angry and upset. And kids, attacked her own throne room. The more Vesper Radiance round 3, the more ponies got hurt. If only we had captured earlier. None of this will be happening. This is all my fault. Celestia keeping me dismissed and I'm completely failing it. A hoof landed on her shoulder. Twilight looked up to see Shining's stern but reassuring eyes. I know what's going on in that smart head of yours. This isn't your fault. But if we had stopped her, Shining clapped a hoof over her mouth. You've seen first hoof of how dangerous he is. She slipped through my barriers felt like it was nothing. I'm not going to blame this on you because he bested you before. Twilight looked it away. She shouldn't have bested me. Bested us. She said, drawing her mouth in a thin line. She shouldn't have gotten this far. Wow. Relax, Applejack said. We're going to stop her. Remember, we still got the crown. We're 1 for 1. So even if she does get those horseshoes, she's still a piece short. Yeah, Pinkie turned. We'll stop being mean pants, then we can all go home and have our victory party. Twilight forced a smile. I hope all of us can go home. The thoughts turned to Sunset, sitting alone in a dungeon below. Hold on just a few more minutes. Shining, can we see Cadance? She asked. He nodded. Yeah, it's about time I checked up on her myself. Come on, the infirmary's this way. The group set made their way down to the adjacent hall and up a flight of stairs. At the top was a wide room with several beds, and a few of the field the youths gazed in. Shining lay on a bed closest to the entrance, with several nurses hovering over her. Nell stepped back as Shining and Twilight approached. Cadance, Twilight said with a breath of relief. Other than the wound to her shoulder, she looked fine. I'm so sorry about what happened. Are you feeling okay? Cadance smiled at her and raised her uninjured foreleg. Twilight, you silly filly. Why are you apologizing? When Twilight drew closer, Cadance pulled her in a tight hug. I'm fine. Just tired. Shining looked over at the nurses. Is she alright? The head nurse nodded. There's no sign of any curse or lingering effects to her overall health. The blast was just very powerful, and it damaged the nerves in her foreleg. Can you fix it? Twilight eyed a table of an odd crystal instruments next to Cadance's bed. Yes, but it's going to take some time, so you won't be going anywhere for a while. Cadance leaned back against her pillow and closed her eyes. For the best, I suppose. I can't even feel my leg. She looked at the detector at chandelier, hanging over the center of the room. Sunset Shimmer. I knew she was driven. I knew she wanted all of Celestia's love and attention, but now... She seems to be beyond desperate now. You have no idea, Rainbow said under her breath. Cadance looked at Shining. Do you have any new leads on her? Well, sort of. We caught, well... It's a long story, but we'll find her. Don't worry. He leaned over and gave her a tender kiss. Just stay here and rest. Twilight reached over and gave Cadance another hug and a kiss on the cheek, for they all waved goodbye. The nurses escorted them to the door and politely sat behind them. Shining led them back downstairs, then through another corridor that progressively sloped downwards. Candelabras became more spread apart the further they went. So, Shining said, I'm guessing you have some kind of plan, right? Twilight nodded. We need to go to the library and find any books that have information on the Obsidian Hoof Guards. Then, we're going to find them and destroy them. Volcano! Pinkie called from the back of the group. Twilight ignored her. We just need to get to them before Vesper does. The goal right now is to keep them out of her hooves. The Came up to the dungeon entrance, a gold threshold with a transparent blue field inside of it. Twilight's ears flicked up. Her eyes ran across the odd doorway. The door nullifies any magic that crosses through it, Sunny said, staying Twilight's curiosity. It's like inhibitor rings, only less invasive. Just as the guards standing on either side of it. They saluted and reached for a button, simultaneously pressing it to deactivate the door. Twilight didn't notice the faint humming it gave off until it was gone. The hall was eerily quiet, even with the collective breathing. Twilight took a step forward after her brother, then tilted to a stop. A shard of ice cut through her heart as a small voice, distant, screamed for help. It all seemed to happen in a fraction of a second, but the scream's echoes rang in her ears. Twilight? Spike poked her shoulder. You okay? Huh? Twilight looked down at him. Oh yeah, I thought I heard... Never mind. They moved on to the last cell. Through the bar, Twilight could see Sunset huddled in the dark corner, her head towards the wall. Shining unlocked the door and cleared his throat. On behalf of the Crystal Guard, I would like to issue a formal apology for wrongfully imprisoning you. Caught himself, it was just due to your identical appearance. My guards mistook you for the other you. Sunset's eyes locked onto him from her spine in the shadows. She stood up and stared before offering him a smile. It's okay, she said slowly. You're just doing your job. You're okay, right? Twilight asked. As she did with Shining, Sunset stared blankly at Twilight for a few seconds before answering, Fine. Twilight could feel the wall of ice Sunset now guarded herself with and moaned inwardly. You just wasn't going to help. It might have actually made things worse. Well, Rarity said, cutting the tension. Perhaps we should move on to the library now. Sunset smiled and nodded, showing all her teeth. That sounds like an excellent idea. You call this narrowing down? Rainbow asked, staring at the rows of books in front of her. Well, would you rather go through the entire library? Twilight asked. Rainbow mumbled something, then flew up to the higher shelves to poke at more books. Twilight motioned to a hoof to the rest of the group, to fan out amongst the Crystal Library's back section, dedicated to folklore and history. This was it. The answer to where the obsidian hoof guards were buried was hidden somewhere in the multitude of pages surrounding Twilight. She pinned her ears back. Rainbow had a point, even narrowing it down. Looking for a single book detailing the obsidian hoof guards could take days. And who knew where Vesper Radius was right now? Twilight pulled a book at random and looked at the cover. Genealogy of the Royal Family. She sighed and fled back. Would the Crystal Ponies even have any record of hoof guards? They'd been entrusted to the Earth Ponies to hide. Would they have asked for help from another tribe? But Earth and Crystal Ponies do share many similarities. Perhaps they felt a close enough bond to ask for assistance. After all, according to Applejack's story, he did bury it up here in the snow and ice. You would have needed some point to guide them through the tundra. Twilight ran Applejack's story through her head again. Duke Puddingcup was Chancellor Puddinghead's great-great-grandson. She cross-referenced dates and did some basic math. Yes, the Empire was still around during that time. But under whose rule? She picked up Genealogy of the Royal Family again and flipped through the pages, keeping a close eye on the dates. Please let them have it buried before Sombra. Please, 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 please. A ray of hope grew dimmer and dimmer with every page turn. She sucked in her breath as she flipped to the last ruler before Sombra took power. A small squeak of relief passed through her lips when she saw the dates align with the ones in her head. If she was correct, then the Obsidian Hoof Guards had been buried under the supervision of the last Crystal Princess. All they had to do was find the most recent history books. She pushed the book back into place and rushed down the aisle to spread the good news. She slid to a stop across the pristine, polished floors as her eyes fell on the librarian's desk near the front. Or, Twilight teleported across the library, reappearing with a pop in front of the desk. The lilac librarian looked up from her desk and let out a yelp, nearly falling out of her chair. I'm so sorry, Miss Amethyst, Twilight said in a low voice. Didn't mean to startle you. The aging plane readjusted her glasses and took a deep breath. It's quite all right, Princess. Is there anything I can help you with? Actually, yes, there is. Twilight looked at him from side to side, giving a wary glance to other readers in the library. Do you know anything about the Obsidian Hoof Guards? Despite her warning, seeing all the Crystal Ponies heard her. Each of them seized up and stared at her with the same kind of fearful, hopeless expression they had given her when she asked them about King Sombra. Amethyst scooted her chair back and gave Twilight an unconvincing smile. I never heard of anything like that. Why would you assume I know such a thing? Nothing like that never existed. Twilight raised a consoling huff. I'm sorry, did I say something wrong? Apparently, this was the wrong gesture, because Amethyst dropped to the floor and threw her hose over her face. No! Please don't send me back to the mines, Your Majesty! I can't think anymore! What happened to her? Sunset crept up to Twilight and observed Amethyst seriously with a detached look. Looks like she's seen a ghost. She might as well have, Twilight said. She walked around the desk and knelt down. It's Amethyst. No one's going to send you back to the mines. Twilight stood up and looked at the other crystal ponies on the brink of a nervous breakdown. It goes for all of you. No one's sending you anywhere. Please go back to what you were doing. The effect was not immediate. Many of them stayed in their paralyzed state, continuously giving Twilight and Sunset looks of terror and mistrust. Twilight turned back to Amethyst. It's gonna be all right. Don't have to tell us about them if you're not ready. Amethyst looked up from her host. Well, why do you want to know about them? Another bad pony's after them, and we need to find them first. I see. Amethyst stood up. Twilight held her to her chair. And now, the rest of Twilight's friends were gathering around the front desk. I suppose I could tell you, Princess, Amethyst said. You did help save the kingdom once already. She took a sighing breath. You see, King Sombra was looking for the Ascendian hoof guards while he was in power. Twilight exchanged grave looks with her friends. First, he had split between the Crystal Mines and special units looking for the hoof guards. But here at the end, he became obsessed with finding them. Amethyst stuck in her chair. We dug and dug all around in the mountains and valleys looking for the resting place. He tortured many of us, thinking we knew the location, and were refusing to tell him. The hoof guards were buried under your last ruler, Twilight said. Do any of you know where they were hidden? Amethyst was silent. The ones who went to help never said a word. I was just a feeling when they brought that statue here. I could feel how evil it was. We all could. She reached under the desk and pulled out a piece of parchment. 4 ponies went out to the tundra. When they came back, they handed the librarian a book and never spoke of it again. She scribbled on the parchment and slid to Twilight. King Sombra never did get through the entire library. Twilight looked down at the paper. Row 229, Cell 7, no title. Thank you, Twilight said. We're going to find it and get rid of it once and for all. Amethyst smiled. Bless you, Princess Twilight. Twilight smiled, then turned to lead her friends to the addressed row. It was in neither history nor the folklore sections. Instead, row 229 contained collections of various encyclopedias of incredibly large size. Cell 7 was the largest. You're up, Dash, Sunset said, pointing to the top. On it! There's no title on it, so it shouldn't be hard to find. Twilight called. Raven flew down to the aisle once, then came back with nothing in her hose. She flew down again with a staring eye, yet when she returned, she still had nothing. Are you sure you read that right? Because I'm not seeing anything. So I looked at the paper again and checked the row number. Yes, this is it. I'm sure of it. Rainbow drifted down the aisle and came to a stop near Sarah. She reached the hoof out and very carefully dislodged the book crammed in between the 2 encyclopedias. She flew down and presented Twilight a very thin black book. It looked more like a pamphlet. No wonder Sombra never found it, Rainbow said. Well, if you want to hide a tree, use the forest, Applejack said. Twilight took the book over to the furthest table and carefully laid it down. She removed her saddlebag, sat down, and gently flipped the book open, cringing as she saw the paper inside. It was war-stained and falling out of the binding. The words were smudged and almost illegible. Looks positively ancient, even by the Crystal Empire standards, Rarity said, taking a step back from it. Probably make it harder for any pony to read it, Sunset said. Well, it's working, Twilight grunted, squinting her eyes to make out the words. It seems to be a journal entry of some sort. The undead beast of the ice. Must be talking about the frostlets. Crystallarium? Crystallarium? What's that? Spike asked. Hold on, let me keep reading. Twilight scanned further down the page. Her eyes strained against the damaged page. Most of it's completely unreadable. But there's a drawing of the statue in here. Return to page in numbers. Rainbow leaned over Twilight's shoulders. Numbers? What for? Think your coordinates. Quick, someone go find me a map. Rainbow sped off and returned 10 seconds later with a map of the surrounding region. Twilight held it up in front of her, bobbing her head back and forth between the book. She summoned a pencil and began making light traces on the map. Her heart beat faster as she drew the lines together and penciled a dot. I think I know where to go. All right, Sunset punched the air. Let's go! I know, Fluttershy asked. Yeah. Don't want Vesper getting there first, do we? Well, no, Verity said. But it's starting to get late. It looks like it's going to be something of a trek. Don't you think we should get a fresh start in the morning? I'm with Rares on this, Applejack spoke up. Sass, you've seen how well guarded this secret is. There's no way Vesper's going to go nowhere to go yet. Sunset stared at all of them. Then a light smile crossed her face. You're right. There's no way she can figure it out so soon. We should rest up and tackle this tomorrow. She shared her smile with Twilight. Good job. Twilight beamed, feeling some of the ice between them melt. Thanks. She closed the book and passed it back to Rainbow. Hide this again. Next time someone finds it, the information will be obsolete. Rainbow saluted and darted off. Twilight reached down for her saddlebag, but a hoof gently stopped her. Don't worry, Sunset said. I'll carry it this time. Are you sure? Sunset smiled as he scooted her back. It's just to the palace. I don't think he'll do anything between here and the next block. The entourage exited the library, Twilight having stowed the map away with the Tempest crown. Outside, Shining Armor was waiting for him. Did you find anything? He asked. Twilight nodded enthusiastically. We know where the last piece of regalia is. She pointed out to the hills east of the Empire. First thing tomorrow, we're gonna find it. Sounds like a plan. Shining ruffled her mane. I will assist. Only here for an hour as he finds some ancient, dangerous treasure. Twilight playfully swiped herself away. Shiny, you're embarrassing me. From her peripheral vision, Twilight saw Sunset twitch. You okay? Twilight asked. Yeah, totally, Sunset said with a chipper smile. Twilight gave her a cautious look. She hadn't noticed it before, but there was something different in Sunset's eyes. Like she was holding something back. Gears started to turn Twilight's head. Rarity stepped in front of her. She looked over Sunset like she was a dress. Darling, Rarity pointed to Sunset's mane. That was bag of yours. Did you splash it off when we teleported onto the Griffin's airship? Sunset's eyes crossed as he stared up. Well, magenta beam knocked Sunset off her hose across the street. Surrounding ponies screamed and dispersed, logging themselves within their homes. Shiny drew his sword and moved in front of Twilight and Rarity. Vesper Radiance! Vesper stood up and frowned. I can't believe I forgot that. And I can't believe you noticed it! Vesper? You're an idiot! Rarity gave her a cold stare. An artist always has an eye for detail. Vesper held a hoof up to her mouth and giggled. No matter. Her horn sparked red. The Alcor amulet simmered into view around her neck. I got what I wanted. Both Twilight and Rainbow rushed from behind Shining. Twilight charging her horn, and Rainbow with a hoof pulled back. Both of them were thrown back by a crimson barrier halfway across the street. I will not be denied this time! Vesper shouted. She took the Tempest crown out of the bag and held it over her head. Shining ran forward with Applejack and delivered a hard buck to the shield, but no avail. Shining switched to attacking him with fairy spells, when Pinky and Spike joined Applejack in trying to break it down. Step back! Vesper roared. Shield exploded outwards, tossing everyone to the steps of the library. It witnessed the first part of my ascension! She placed the crown upon her head. Ruby light immediately wrapped around her body and lifted her up to the air. Centered around her midsection spun faster, raining new appendages that protruded from her shoulder blades. Twilight got up and fired spell after spell in desperation, waiting to have them rebound in random directions. She stared on in abject horror as the wings fully formed on Vesper's back, long, feathery, amber, like the rest of her coat. The light faded, leaving Vesper to hover over the street, gently beating her wings. She rose higher into the air, spread her wings to the fullest. She can fly already? Twilight asked, aghast. Her own wings visited. She only had them for 2 seconds! Vesper looked down at her. It's like I said, princess. An alicorn who can't fly is truly pathetic. Ball of air, she consoled at the tip of her horn as she hurled it down. Twilight's shining shields overlapped another, repelled the magic, but Vesper quickly followed another, and another. Come out, little ponies! Come bow before your new princess! You're no princess of ours, Shiny growled. You won't be saying that after Cadance is dead! Vesper turned towards the palace. Both shields dropped simultaneously, and Shiny was halfway down the block before Twilight could blink. She teleported, ending a few yards behind her and broke into a run. Heavy storm! Shiny bellowed, his voice ringing through the entire city. 3 guards appeared on the palace balcony, materializing in thin air. Each in their armor with a crystal bow, and quickly lined Vesper in their sights. Fire! Volley of arrows from the balcony. Raising her head higher, Twilight saw another volley come down from the palace spire. It's not going to stop her, but it should distract her. Vesper paused mid-fight to throw a shield around herself. The arrows embedded themselves within, falling to the ground when the shield vanished. As the archers drew another set of arrows, Vesper charged her horn. Twilight fired a spell, a single pinpoint blast that hit Vesper right between her shoulder blades. She cried out and fell into the sky. Her hopes failed as she tried to get her wings to work again. An intense spear solidified around her, carrying her to the ground and dragging her in front of Twilight and Shining. Don't even think of trying your little trick this time, Shining said confidently. It's sealed from every side. Vesper just watched him with a calculating smirk. Twilight took a step forward, opposing the smirk with a hard scowl. Where's Sunset? She asked slowly. I'm right in front of you, princess. Vesper's smile widened. Twilight pressed her teeth together. You know that's not what I mean. Oh, the replica. Yes, I had quite a fun time with her. Rainbow flew up from behind and banged a hoof against the force field. Where is she? Vesper pressed her muzzle against it. Where indeed? Where is she? Twilight screeched. Vesper fell back on her stomach. Now they're bounced around the bubble. By now, Replica is dead, buried out in the snow with no pony to comfort her. She stood up and pressed her face against the shield again, staring into Twilight's eyes. I hope she cursed your name with her last breath. The ground vanished from beneath Twilight as he fell into a bottomless chasm. That voice, that cry for help. It had been Sunset's. She ignored it. She had fallen for Vesper's trick and mistaken her for a friend. She couldn't tell the difference between the real Sunset and the fake one. Now the real one was dead. The words struggled out of Twilight's mouth. She failed to keep her promise to Sunset. She didn't even come close. Let her out of that bubble! She heard Rainbow yell from far away. Rainbow Dash, I can't do that, came Shiny's voice. Let her out so I can pulverize her! That's okay, Dash. I can escape on my own. What do you mean? The sun is out, Captain. Twilight regained enough of her senses to see Vesper's eyes vanish in a pool of white light. Twilight threw a shield around herself and her friends. Vesper roared, detonating the shield encasing her. The force was enough to push Twilight back, but her shield had withstood the attack. Vesper launched herself into the sky with a triumphant laugh, bolted east with map and hoof, leaving a red and gold streak behind her. Rainbow swore to top her lungs and broke into the air as well. Rarity called to her before he could make it very far. Rainbow, stop! You can't chase her out there on your own! Rainbow spun around screaming, She killed Sunset! She killed Sunset? Twilight echoed in her mind. I know that. Rarity turned and wiped her face with a hoof. But we need to stick together. You know what she's capable of. Death. One of my friends is death. What do you know? Pinky asked, laying flat against her head. What do you know? Get a host of guards. We'll go after her before she can reach the city of hoof guards. Cyan said, no. Twilight said in a tight voice. Cyan looked incredulously in the air. No? What do you mean, no? We will go after her. Twilight made a weak gesture to her friends. You need to stay here. Guard the palace. Guard Cadence. Okay, I agree. We're going to need to keep a strong defense around her. But if you think I'm going to let you go out there alone... Shiny armor. Listen to me. Twilight's voice was completely neutral. You just saw. Which gives me all the more reason to listen! You're going to need every guard you can muster to stay here and defend the Empire. We're going after her to stop her. If we fail to seek against the hoof guards, if we don't come back, then you're going to need every last guard to try to stop her. Twilight's unwavering, cold eyes drilled into Shining's. Shining took a step back and swallowed hard. You're going to come back, right? Twilight nodded. Yes. Shining closed his eyes. I don't really like this, Twilight. You always know what you're doing. Come on, at least let me give you some snow gear. It's going to be freezing out there. Twilight followed him forward without a word. And none of her friends said anything. All she heard was sniffles and full muffled sobs. Yet Twilight had no tears. Just a beast clawing at her chest, eating away at her heart. A beast born of guilt and fear, frustration and hate. I'm glad we don't have the elements with us. I would have used them this time because faced Morris for defense of herself. Her words escaped her, just soft enough so only she could hear them. I'm going to kill her. You're staying here! No, I'm not! I told you I'm coming with you! And I said no! Spike, you're staying with Sunny where it's safe! Nowhere's safe, Twilight. You keep treating me like a little kid. I want to help out too! No, please, Spike, stay here. But please, I beg you. Twilight and Spike faced off against one another in the central hall of the palace. Both of them donned unflinching faces, resolute in their desire to defy the other's orders. I know you want to help, Twilight said evenly, but it's too dangerous. I'm not going to risk it. Spike crossed his arms. This whole journey's been dangerous. You can't just tell me to sit out now. I want to help you stop Vesper too. He dropped his arms and his eyes started to water. I want to help finish what sets it started. Twilight softened. Fernsing from breaking into tears in herself. Spike, I can't just sit here while you all go out and fight. I need to know if you girls are okay. And I need to help any way I can. He gave Twilight the biggest eyes possible. So please, Twilight. No. The word no sat on her tongue, but moved nowhere. She wanted so badly to tell him to stay inside the palace. The less targets Vesper had, the better. But those eyes. His determination, Twilight yielded, knowing she couldn't baby him forever. You stay by me at all times, okay? Spike nodded fervently. Deal. Sunny stepped from behind the curtain and bundled a clothes in his magic. He presented to Twilight and said, You know, if Cadence wasn't injured, there'd be nothing that could stop me from going too, right? Twilight slipped a light blue cloak around herself and wrapped the scarf around her neck. I know. Shiny turned to Spike and smiled apologetically. Sorry, Spike. All I could find your size was a scarf. He handed it to him. Spike took the claws and nearly fell over. This is a scarf? He unbundled a long roll of fabric. A sword clattered to the ground. What? Spike picked him up with both claws. Twilight stared in open mouth at the sword and then at Shining. You can't give him a sword! Shining ignored her. Keep this safe, alright? Spike gripped the sheath tight and nodded. Oh, look! Spike has a sword! Whoopee! What? I'm a swordsman too, but I wouldn't mind if they gave Spike something a little different. I suppose. He's the male. Gotta have the sword. You know, Kamen Rider Double has a really cool bow staff. Just saying. Be cool. Twilight held up a hoof of protest, but changed her mind before the words left her lips. If a sword would help protect Spike, then who was she to say anything? Me? I'll help, Twilight. There's more to do wielding a sword than just swinging it around. A heavy sword in the hands of an unmastered user could end up getting himself hurt, or Spike could be fighting that sword in his hand, in his arm, or somewhere else he does not want to. Their friends met them in the entrance hall, dressed in cloaks and hoods, boots and scarves. Their eyes were red and puffy, and they moved like a funeral procession. Her own discomfort, Twilight had not cried yet. A few tears had been shed, but her brain wouldn't allow her to stay. The idea for more than a few seconds. She knew that Sunset was dead. Her mind just refused to let it sink in any further than it had. Hey, wait a minute, Shining! Where's our weapons? Indeed! Perhaps a bow and arrow would be nice? Or a lasso? Something? Or a couple of mice. Wing blades! Come on, Shining! You gotta have a few wing blades in here!
I'm fine without having any weapons whatsoever. I'm good. You don't need to give me anything.
I make my own!
I wish it for the wing, maybe.
Twilight was grateful, not giving into that thought, staring at it further. The only driver to despair. She had failed. Not only had she let one of her friends die, she had broken her promise to Sunset. Train of thought surged to the height to the tundra. It was going to be alone and eat up the rest of their daylight. Vesper was prior already, digging through the snow. Another distraction Twilight's mind provided for her was trying to formulate a plan to stop Vesper. Time had already shown it was pointless to hope that Frostless would stop her. The fact that Twilight and her friends had to fight Vesper and an undying dragon made her dizzy. Until Spike delivered a message from Luna upon entering the palace. A letter with 3 simple words that filled Twilight with hope. Celestia's coming. It fills you hope with Twilight. It makes me just roll my eyes. Much of a breath of fresh air it was. Twilight felt shame bubble up with her. Her mentor was coming to their aid was the best thing any of them could ask for. Yet, it was another strike reminding Twilight of her failure. Celestia had asked her to stop Vesper Radiance. Twilight had been unable to do so. Now Celestia was on her way to do the deed herself. She'd be disappointed in Twilight? Angry? Twilight shook her head, knowing where that particular train of thought led. It didn't matter at this point. Twilight knew she and her friends just needed to keep Vesper occupied. Celestia showed up. Then it would all be over. Vesper Radiance. Twilight's entire body gave a violent shudder. Was this what Sunset had been feeling? Unbaited, unbridled loathing for one being? Vesper's laugh and unsympathetic smirk when she delivered the news of Sunset's death sent chills down Twilight's spine and a burning drive through her heart. Nothing would have made Twilight happier than to be the one to strike Vesper down, to wipe that cruel smirk off her face. Yet when she imagined Celestia doing it instead, part of her was relieved. It had been a silent walk to the eastern edge of the city. The sun was still out, but everyone had hidden themselves inside, save for the guards. Shine came to a stop when the crystal path gave way to a sloping grass field. He looked down at Twilight. I guess this is as far as I go. You guys get beyond the border. I'm putting the shield up. Though I doubt it'll be much help against her, he said, pinching his face like he swallowed a bare herb. Twilight leaned up and kissed him on the cheek.
Hopefully it won't come to that.
So I pray. But I still feel better if you took some guards with you.
I can't.
Twilight pretended to stare at a distance. It'll just slow us down and give her more targets. I won't let her kill anyone else on my watch. I'm with Twilight on this, Shining. You send guards, they die. Which is better? Having 6 mares potentially die, or a little platoon? Why does these people ever think of the body count? Shining sighed. Twilight, I know what's going through your head again. Ugh! Twilight silenced him by throwing her forelegs around his neck for one last hug.
Thanks, BBBFF. I'll come back, I promise.
Shining rubbed his back. All right, we'll be waiting. They broke apart and each gave each other a wave. Shiny gave a wink to Spike, who had the sword strapped across his back. Is that a short sword, by the way? Do you people know how heavy swords are? Okay, they're, unless that thing was a freaking katana or a really, really short sword, Spike, with his size and his little weight, would be tipping over. Twilight and her friends up the hill. The frozen dwarfs right out behind them. Still a little miffed as to why they aren't getting any weaponry, but Spiky, he gets a sword! The green passers extended for a smile before becoming a sea of ice and snow. A surprised dragon crested the hill. Blue wall rose up behind them, completely encasing the Crystal Empire. The warm magic that formed through the Crystal Heart immediately ceased, exposing them to the bitter chill of the north wind. No turning back now, Twilight thought. She took a few steps forward. Twilight, Rarity said. She opened her mouth to ask the obvious question, but it never came, to Twilight's relief. Instead, she asked, I know we're supposed to keep Vesper distracted until Celestia arrives, but I was hoping you could divulge your plan to the rest of us. I don't have one, Twilight said rarely. Then perhaps you could make one? Tuck it out together. Twilight, Rarity's smile, pleading eyes warmed the broken pieces of Twilight's heart. But Twilight turned her head away. No. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing, Twilight, really. Please, Twilight, I just want to be alone now. The wind was sucked out of Twilight. Every rebuke, every defensive answer made sense to her now. This crushing wind in your chest. Was this what you were feeling, Sunset? Twilight knew why Sunset put off telling her hidden feelings. Because to acknowledge them, Twilight would have to stop. She would have to sit down and take inventory of every piece of her heart. And if she stopped now, Twilight wasn't sure she could start again. As she sat down, she wasn't going to get back up. Rarity put a hoof on her shoulder. Twilight, we're all here for a reason. We're all going through the same thing right now. We can lean on each other. Twilight looked into Rarity's eyes and found the same pain, same heartache, the same broken pieces. Rarity was right. They had each other to lean on. They would catch Twilight as she fell. They would help her stand up. But Twilight didn't feel like falling down. Not yet. Not when they had a job to do. Even with all her friends by her side, she could not stop to warn Sunset now. She wanted time. She wanted to think it back and know Sunset hadn't died in vain. Twilight squeezed Rarity's hoof. I promise we'll talk when this is over. I just need to keep moving right now. We all do. For Equestria. For Sunset. Piggy nodded, hair straight, face grim. She stuck her hoof out. First I followed, laying hers on top of his pinkies. And Rainbow Dashes, Applejack, Rarity, finally Spike. Twilight laid her hoof on top, her heart swelling at the sight of her friends. For Sunset! Do people see why I have problems when we bring Celestia into this? Right now, it goes from these heroes wanting to do something to avenge their friend or trying to stop the big bad to just them being the delivery pony, to be the distraction. Doesn't come off as an epic finish to the adventure. It comes off like your heroes are just biding their time. And yeah, it happens on DBZ, and do you notice how sometimes it gets repetitive there? But the difference there is Goku is a main character. These are our main characters, and the main characters should feel like they're just waiting around. Everything else is great, though. I just get annoyed when Celestia is coming, and it makes it feel like this whole entire thing is just, oh, let's just wait for Celestia to come by. And yes, still annoyed by the entire existence of the fact that only Spike got a sword. Whoopee, I'm so excited.